It comes from Mark, the 8th chapter, verses 27 through 38. Let us now listen for the word of the Lord. Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in his glory and the glory of his Father with the holy angels." The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
We have this group that's helping us out. You may not know about them. We haven't talked about it a whole lot. They're called Ideal Impact. There's a fellow that was in the commercial world, and he would go to large corporations and show them how he could save them money on their electric bill. And then one day, talking to his pastor, he realized he could do this for churches. So, he's doing this for our church and many other churches. What we found out since this group has come to our church, in the last 2 months alone, we've saved $2,600 on our electric bill. Pretty good, huh? Not only that, our demand from last year, we paid two parts. We paid usage and we paid demand. Demand means the electric company makes us pay for their ability to give us what? Our electricity. That's the biggest part of our bill. It doesn't change a whole lot unless we can get the demand down. It's the most electricity we use in any one 15-minute period. So you can imagine when we turn all our air conditioners on Sunday morning, it makes a huge demand all at once, right? Not anymore. Because we turn them on schedules. And we have got our demand way down. Now there's a group I want to thank for that, and that's the Paysetter class. They've moved from their classroom going, we don't have to turn the adult building on at all on Sunday morning. They moved downstairs. So I think we need to give them a round of applause. That's 7.5 tons of air conditioning we haven't had to turn on this summer, which got our demand down a little bit more. Now, in a couple of weeks, they're going back to the classroom because heat doesn't cost us that much. But Ideal Impact has made a huge difference. One thing they found out, though, was that we don't have anybody that knows how to work the software on the air conditioning system that works in this building. The company that put it in says they don't know who we are anymore. And they do have a guy that's figuring it out, but he hadn't quite got it figured out. So somebody back there wants to go tell Rick to turn the air conditioner back on. It was 69 degrees here earlier. It doesn't know when to turn itself off. So as you can tell, it was icebox cold in here earlier, and it's not now, right? So Pete, you want to go find Rick, and he'll go turn it back on, if you don't mind. Thank you. And it'll come back down quick, believe me. All right? But isn't it great that we're being good stewards? Frank and the trustees have worked hard with different groups to make different things happen around here. And we're really doing a good job, folks. I want to give the congregation my round of applause because we worked hard. We worked hard to do the best we can with what we've got. Now that all said, because that was just a segue to get the air conditioner turned back on, because I've got a robe on. Let's get into the scriptures for today. Jesus is walking towards Caesarea Philippi. He asks his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they give him the answers: John the Baptist, Elijah, one of the prophets. "Well, who do you say that I am?" Peter says, "You're the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God." He says, "Don't tell anybody." This is the Markan version. It's just a little different. They do the Peter the Rock thing in the other two synoptics. But in this one, don't tell anybody. Jesus is kept secret in Mark. Messianic secret is what it's called, if you want to look that up. And then he begins to tell them what's going to happen. What kind of Messiah is he? He's a Messiah who's going to be scourged and hurt, whipped, beaten, turned away. He's going to be crucified, and then 3 days later he will rise from the dead. And what does Peter do? Peter looks at him and he says, "You can't do that." And he begins to rebuke him. And then Jesus stops Peter caught dead in his tracks, turns around in front of everybody, and rebukes Peter. "Get behind me, Satan." I've always thought it's interesting that in one of the Gospels, Peter is called the rock upon which the church will be built in one paragraph, and in the very next paragraph, he's Satan already. What does that tell us, church? What does that tell us? We can be the same thing, right? We have to be very careful about what kind of Christ we make Christ into and what kind of Christians we become. So listen to what Jesus says. "If you want to be my followers, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me." Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. Will Willimine was my professor at worship, and he preached some really great sermons at Duke. And one of those sermons, he starts out by saying, a lady from Teach America, you ever heard of Teach America, came to Duke. And she has a meeting about Teach America. And he says, surprise, surprise, the room was full of Duke students wanting to hear her say these words about Teach America. And she gets up in front of the group and she says, "Well, I'm glad at least to see we've got a room full of kids, but I know that you're considered the BMW class of students in the United States. You're all Beamer kids. And I know that you're very special and you're very smart and you're the cream of the crop in the entire country, one of those schools. And I understand none of you really want to hear what I'm saying, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And just to let you know, this is not the kind of job Duke students want. Because you're going to go on to Madison Avenue, Wall Street, being lawyers and doctors and such. And this job's going to make you go into the hollows of West Virginia, and you're going to be end up in the ghettos of South Los Angeles. But you need to understand some things. It's not just that it's a hard job. We believe that when the cream of the crop in our country begins to teach the hardest of hard students in our country, something can happen. We believe in that, and we think that would be great. We know you probably won't do that. But, just in case, there's some brochures down here if you want to look into it. That's it. I'm done. And Willimon said, to his surprise, the kids were trying to crawl around each other and over each other to get down the aisle to get the brochures. They couldn't get there fast enough. That's amazing, isn't it? Kids that can go make hundreds of thousands of dollars out of college are willing to go be teachers in the lowest of low school districts in our country. Why is that? Willimon says he believes it's because all of us ultimately want to be part of a movement, a part of something that's bigger than we are, a part of an adventure. All of us ultimately want to make a difference in the world in which we live. What do you think? Oh, I forgot. All of y'all drive BMWs too. You're the cream of the crop. Is that true or not? Do we really want to make a difference? Do we want the world in which we live to be better than it was when we came into it? Do we want to know that somebody's life is better because I walk this earth? You walk this earth? Is that what we're looking for? It just gets in my gut to listen to some of the words that people say during these election cycles. And I'm not picking on one side or the other, so just get over it, all right? Have you heard the American dream stuff come up from both sides over and over again, right? Have you heard this? Come on, have you heard it?
Yeah.
We got to believe in the American dream. Well, they're not talking about the American dream that I know about. Neither side. It just makes me so angry to hear the way they talk about the American dream. They say the American dream is that everybody can become rich someday. How many of you really believe that? That's not the American dream, that everybody can make it. Not the dream I think of. The American dream I believe in is that the communities in which we live are places where everybody has the opportunity to have a decent life, and we all work together to make that happen. Now, that's the American dream. I don't think it's the American dream. I believe that's the Christian dream. That we live in communities where everybody has an opportunity to have a decent life. Not that I get rich. I know some of y'all think I make more than I ought to. And that's probably true. And then some people say I make less than I ought to. That's probably true. Isn't it amazing how so many things are true? But I don't think I'm going to get rich on preacher's salary. And a lot of y'all aren't going to get rich on yours either. But I remember as my daddy counted out the first 10 pennies, and he says, Gifford, you get 100 pennies this month. So I counted out the rest of them. 100 whole pennies. I was 7 years old. You know, 100 pennies, I was rich. Because you could get 3 pieces of bubble gum for 5 cents. Remember that? 3 pieces. And I'm talking big pieces of bubble gum, not this little stuff they have nowadays. They've downsized our bubble gum, kids. I'm sorry. And I would count out my 100 pennies, and I would think, man, I've got it made. I've got a whole month with 100 pennies. Now, you know, you kids don't think that's much anymore, but back in my days, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of bubble gum. I could even get those little straw things, you know, and get the sugar stuff out of them. I mean, it was awesome. 100 whole pennies. And I looked at Dad and I said, Dad, how am I ever going to repay you for this? He looked at me and he said, son, you can't. But someday you'll find a way to give to somebody else. My father believed in the American dream. Someday you'll be able to give to somebody else. You'll pay it forward, we've heard that. You'll pass it on, we've heard that. You'll deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. You'll set some of your own stuff aside so that somebody else can be all right.